Writers Read by Lit Tracy. Getting that book in children's hands.
Hi, I'm Tracy Grice, and welcome to this special episode of the Writers Read podcast. Well, the lead up to Book Week is in full swing, and classrooms and libraries across Australia are embracing this year's theme, Reading is My Secret Power. I thought I'd put together a series of Book Week podcasts for you, featuring the Children's Book Council of Australia's shortlisted books in the Younger Readers category. So as usual, I got to spend some time with these authors, hearing an excerpt of their shortlisted novel, and I got to ask them some questions around this year's Book Week theme. On this episode, I'm chatting with award-winning Sydney-based author Ursula Dubosarsky, author of Brindabella.
Well, this is a book I wrote called Brindabella, and it's about a little kangaroo called Brindabella, and it's about a boy called Penda who finds Brindabella as a little baby kangaroo, and then he kind of looks after her and brings her up at home. He lives in the country. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a little bit from when Penda, that's the name of the little boy, finds the baby Joey. The baby's mother has died, and he finds the baby inside the pouch of his mother and decides to take him home. So that's the bit I'm going to read to you, which is when they find each other. So he's in the bush and he sees the kangaroo mother and he realises something was struggling inside it, something that wanted to get out. Okay, so here we go. Penda gazed in utter astonishment. Out of the kangaroo's pouch came one little black spiky foot, then another, then a tiny black nose, two small ears, two bright round eyes. Those two eyes stared and the two ears pricked up. Brindabella. It would be impossible to say who was more amazed by the sight of the other, the boy or the Joey. Brindabella made a sudden lunge forward. She was straining to get out of her mother's pouch. Her legs were so long it seemed as if she was tangled up with her own body. Penda wanted to help the Joey get out, but he was afraid that he might hurt her, or she might hurt him. She must be very frightened, and her claws looked sharp. He could see that the Joey had fur and was big enough to hop around by herself, but he knew she was too young to survive without her mother. She needed her mother just like those baby birds in the hen house with their endless opening beaks and tiny cries. If he left the baby Joey there by herself, she would not have enough to eat or drink, and she would not be able to get away from dingoes or wild dogs. He had to keep her alive. He had to keep her safe. But how? I'll take her back home with me, he thought. Dad will know what to do, how to look after her. His father knew all about animals, not just cats and dogs and chickens, but all sorts of bush animals as well. He would know the right thing to do. He would understand that Penda couldn't just leave her where she was. Dad will know, Penda murmured to the little Joey. Don't worry. Brindabella had pushed her delicate shoulders halfway out of the pouch by now. Her fur was patchy and growing in all directions. Penda untied his jacket from around his waist. He knew he had to act quickly to make sure he got hold of her before she was able to hop away from him, terrified, into the bush. Now was the moment. He came forward swiftly, enclosing the Joey in his jacket and lifting her up and out of the pouch into his arms. He held her struggling, shaking body against his chest. Don't be afraid, said Penda, hanging on tight. She was strong. Don't be scared, Joey. I won't hurt you. How her heart was hammering. She pushed wildly against him with the claws of all her legs slapping her tail. Penda stood up and pulled the flaps of his jacket around her as firmly as he could. The Joey dug her claws into him and he bit his lip against the pain. But he didn't let go. He clung to Brindabella, and Brindabella clung to him. They left the forest together, slowly and carefully, back through the wall of trees and down slowly to the riverbank. I might stop there. Hi, my name is Ursula Dubosarsky, and you're listening to the Writers Read podcast.
So around that Book Week theme of reading being a secret power, for younger readers, what do you think are the keys to unlocking this secret power?
It's funny, when you read, it's like all the world around you seems to disappear. You're in this other place and it's just you there, and nobody's with you but the people in the book. And that's a really strange and special feeling, I think, because in a way you're sort of in charge almost, it's your thoughts about what you're reading. It's just your own thoughts inside your head. And that's one of the things I think is really special about reading. When I think about a secret power, I think a really special thing that reading does for you, which is a secret power, is it definitely makes your writing better. Now, sometimes you might find writing really hard, and it is quite hard. I find it pretty hard, and I'm a writer. But when you're reading, you're not thinking, oh, yes, that's a good sentence, I'm going to write a sentence like that or anything like that. You don't think about it because you're so excited and inside the story. But all those words kind of soak into your brain and they help you work out how to make better sentences when you write. So I think that's one of the really special secret powers that reading gives you. It turns you into a better writer.
And what have you found are the secret powers books give you that you didn't know you had?
That I didn't know I had.
Or maybe you did know you had.
Maybe I did know I had. Look, I suppose every time I pick up a book, it's in a funny sort of way. You almost forget who you are. Most of the time in your life, you're thinking about yourself all the time. You might be worrying about things or wondering about things or having a good time or a bad time, but you're sort of thinking about yourself all the time in a way. And I think when you read a book, it's as though that kind of fades away or it sort of, I don't know, that self becomes bigger or it's like your mind just sort of grows into this sort of enormous, like an ocean or something almost when you read. It like becomes so big and you have that feeling of that at the same time you're disappearing but you're being transformed into something else in your mind. And I guess into a different shape with every book you read. You become a different kind of, could be a person or an animal or a feeling or anything really. So it's sort of all about something magical that happens as those words. It's very strange, isn't it? They're just sort of little sort of bits of, black and white shapes on a page, and your eyes look at them and somehow your eyes, the words somehow get into your eyes and into your mind, and then they kind of swirl around and take you into this completely different way of being in the world than you normally are.
So for you then, we know, well, your fans know the kinds of books that you write. And are they the same kinds of books that you read as well to sort of transport you off to that place?
Look, I think they probably are in a way. I read lots and lots of kinds of books. So, and even, when I was a child, I just used to, and I still do, just sort of walk up and down the library shelves and in a way pull out anything, because it's just sort of exciting. It's not like every book I would pull out that I would enjoy reading, but I like that idea of almost a lucky dip idea that you just didn't know what was waiting for you there. So I think that's an interesting question. I think it's probably true that you do end up trying to write the kinds of books that you like to read. You probably can't do it because you've got a different each person has a different mind and a different way of writing. But I think that's probably true, that the kinds of books that I write are the kinds of books that I like to read. And I mean, I like to read lots of books that are written for adults, but I think the kinds of books I like to read for adults, they've got lots of similar qualities to the kinds of books I like to read for children.
So when you are wandering up and down those aisles and looking on the shelves, which is something I see students do every day of the week, and you just seem like you are ready at you could just pick out any book, like you say, a lucky dip. But for children, sometimes taking that risk is hard. What advice would you give to children who are trying to unlock that secret power of reading and finding a great book, and they're faced with all of those books on a shelf? What advice would you give in helping them to find the right one?
I think the thing is that the only way you can find out what you like is by trying lots and lots of different things, and there'll be lots of books in the library that you might not like, but you're only going to be able to find them if you try. Mm-hmm. The way, that you use that, everybody has a different sort of taste. People like different things. They have a different taste. But you can only find out what your taste is by trying lots of things. Mm-hmm. You won't find out by only ever reading one kind of book, or you won't find out what your taste is if somebody gives you a book and says, this is the book you must read, and that's it. Mm-hmm. It's something you have to discover for yourself in a way. People can help you. Like, I had a great librarian when I was in primary school who really encouraged me to read more broadly, because I think, I loved the books by Enid Blyton. I still, I think they're great books, but I didn't really want to read anything else. And I remember this librarian was very, she just pushed me a bit, she just she found me a list, actually, and she said, I think you need to pick some books from this list. So that was a little bit different to me picking books off the shelf. So in a way, she really helped me. And that's what's great about librarians, is if you do feel really daunted looking at all those books, the librarian really wants to help you. Mm-hmm. That's what they really know about all those books, and they want to help you find books that you might like. And they won't be upset or offended if they suggest a book that you don't like. They'll then suggest another one, and that way you'll sort of discover what it is that you like, because every person is a bit different. Some people are very different, but everybody's a little bit different in what they like. And you can like different books for different reasons. You might like one sort of book, because, I don't know, maybe you like books about cats. So, you like books about cats, but then there may be another sort of book that you like as well that you might not even know unless you try. So I think just thinking of yourself as a sort of, explorer, just trying things out, or it's like the chart table or something. Do you know what I mean? You don't
Absolutely
know what it is. That you sort of think, well, and you might like it, but you might. And that's the joy of being alive. We're so lucky. And we're very lucky in Australia to have such wonderful school libraries, or most schools are, and local libraries, that you can actually read as many books as you could ever want to read. So it's a really lucky thing to have all those books there.
Yeah, and one thing that librarians are going to be doing coming up in the next term is sharing all those wonderful shortlisted books leading up into Book Week. So do you have a message for all of the children and teachers who are listening to this podcast, a special Book Week message for them?
Well, look, Book Week has always been, since I was a child, a really favourite time of year for me, because it's just such a time when the library really comes alive, doesn't it? It's like Christmas in the library. It's just everything is special, and the libraries are decorated, and the people dress up, and it's just sort of that big excitement of Book Week, and the shortlisted books are all up there, and they feel really special. Mm-hmm. They're all got their own personalities, all those books, different personalities, and there's the excitement of waiting to see who might win the big prize, and that's really exciting. So, look, my message just would be, have a wonderful Book Week, and love the books, and just remember that the books are sort of about joy and secret powers and are full of surprises and wonderful things, and they will be wonderful things your entire life. So there's never a reason not to celebrate a book, but Book Week is the very best week to be doing it.
Oh, definitely. And I'm sure my listeners would join me in wishing you all the very best for the big announcement in a few weeks' time. And we are going to love sharing your book over the coming weeks with, certainly with the students that I work with. And we're eager to hear who's going to win.
You know, it's very exciting just to be on. I think all authors would agree it's incredibly exciting and feels very lucky to be on the shortlist. So obviously it's great to win a prize, but the best thing about Book Week is that all books are being celebrated, really. So it's just a fantastic opportunity to remember how much we all love books and how important they are.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, Ursula.
Thank you, Tracy. That's fantastic.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this special Book Week episode of Writers Read featuring Ursula Dubosarsky. To keep up to date with all our podcasts, make sure you subscribe to Writers Read by Lit Tracy on your preferred platform.
Writers Read by Lit Tracy. Getting that book in children's hands. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram @Writers Read by Lit Tracy.